All right, here is the last page for the spiral portion of the review. We're going to be solving for x. We will have to check for extraneous solutions when we see domain restrictions. So domain restrictions fall in problem 24 because we have x in a denominator, and denominators can't be 0. They do not fall in 22 because you can take the fifth root of any number, so that one's okay. And then this 1/3 power here is like a cubed root, and you can also take the cubed root of a negative number. So the only one we're going to check for a domain issue is 24. So as I go to all the problems, I will look at, is there one type or more than one type of x? This is one type, so I'm going to get x alone. So I'm going to subtract the 3 first, the big 3. That leaves me with 2. And then I have to get rid of the cube root, so I'm going to cube both sides. And what you got to remember, that 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. And now I add 6, and when I'm done, x is 14. All right, let's go to 20. So 20 is more than one type of x. Just to point out, there's an alligator. We're going to make sure our alligator's happy. So if I graph 2x squared minus 8x plus 6, that is a regular u that is not flipped. And when the other side is going to be my y flies byline, I'll get my 2 answers, and then I will want the part of the u that's below. So I already know what I get for an answer will be something comma something with parentheses around it because this is not underlined. So first step is with more than one type of x, factoring, GCF. I see I can take a 2 out. So I'm just dividing everything by 2. And then I only have to work with factors of 3 that make negative 4. And I'm going to get regular x's because I'm now factoring with x squared. And I'm going to have x minus 3 and x minus 1. So my 2 answers are 3 and 1. So 1 would be here, 3 would be here, and then I would fit them in like so. All right, next problem, one type of x, so I'm just going to get x alone. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 8. That leaves me still with the fifth root, but now I've got 2. And to get rid of the fifth root, I'm going to fifth power both sides. So fifth power. And that means 2 to the 5th, which means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, not 2 times 5. And you will see that your x is 32. All right, next problem, one type of x, so I can just get x alone. So I don't see any addition or subtraction. I do, but it's in the parentheses, so I'll be getting rid of I'll have to get rid of the parentheses first before I can move that 2. So otherwise, I'm going to get rid of the fraction so I can multiply by its reciprocal. And that's going to leave me with this. Whoops. Can I get that to right? Okay. With a positive 16, and now I will undo the square by square rooting. We are solving, so when I take the square root of 16, I'll have 4 and negative 4. And then I'll have a problem of x plus 2 with 4, x plus 2 with negative 4, and I get my 2 answers of negative 6 and 2. All right, I'm going to do 25 next. I see more than one type of x, so I will need to have it equal 0, so I'm going to subtract that 45 over. And now first step of factoring is looking for a GCF, which I don't see one, so 4 terms, I'm going to group them. I will take an x squared as a GCF out, and I'll have x plus 5. And then I will be having its match, its partner, its twin. And that means I will have to factor out a negative 9 for that. And then my factors are x squared minus 9, x plus 5. I now have one type of x for each problem, so I can set them equal to 0. And I'm going to add 9 and then square root, and I get 2 answers. I'm going to subtract 5 and get my third answer of negative 5. All right, last problem. There are denominators, and so they added the left side to make the right side, and they did that by having common denominators. So the first denominator and second denominator I cannot factor, but the other one is a difference of squares. And if you can't see that LCD, remember you can always make that table. So fraction 1 has x plus 1. Fraction 2 has x minus 1. Fraction 3 has both. So that is going to be, bringing everything down, my LCD. So the first fraction has the x plus 1, so I'm going to give it the x minus 1. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. The next one needs an x plus 1. And the last one doesn't need anything. So once we have common denominators here, we can let them go. So my numerator has 2 with x minus 1. It has an x with x plus 1, and then it has a 2. So starting to simplify, distributing. I'm noticing more than one type of x, so I'm going to clean it up and make sure it equals 0. So the x squared will come first. The 2x in the x will make it 3x. And then when I subtract the 2 for that 2, I'll get negative 4. And then you can factor. So if you don't remember, factors of negative 4 that make 3 are 4 and 1, with 1 being negative. And it's regular x's, so x and x make that x squared. And then I can just do plus 4 minus 1, and then I get my answers of negative 4 and 1. So remember, we want to make sure that both of these answers work. And the only area I have to look at is in the denominator, and I just want to make sure, do any of my answers make the denominator become 0? And one of them does. 4 works, but 1 would make the second fraction and the third fraction become 0. So we're going to call that an extraneous solution. And that is the review, or I'm sorry, the spiral review. And if you haven't done it yet, then work on the actual chapter 6 review.